I thought I'd just do a quick schematrico of the way I've done this. And by the way, don't take any notice of this particular relay. I just picked one out of the wrong drawer. That's a 220 volt, but it doesn't matter. The system I have implemented is for the pump that I want to trigger with the underback. I simply had a switch. I had positive coming in here, and the switch was off, and then there is on, and it would send the 12 volt up to the relay, which would then switch the mains to the pump. All I've done is replace that switch with a double switch. So when the switch is in the middle, everything is off. When you switch it one way, it just, like this, sends 12 volt to the relay. So I've bridged that to the second switch, or the second position of the switch. That's all I've done, a little link wire, like that. And then that, when that's switched on, that one's not. So that then sends power to the underback. Go into the system for getting power back from the underback, but essentially the voltage coming back, all I do is bypass this switch. So I've taken the positive voltage from here. When that switch is turned on, it goes to the underback, and 12 volt back from the underback bypasses that switch. Now relays are sometimes confusing, but they're actually a piece of cake, sorry. All a relay is, it uses a magnet to pull a little connector over. And the three parts that we're interested in, we're not interested in a magnet, right? Because it's a little electromagnet. You add power and it goes bzzz, right? That's all. Easy. The three connectors are normally open, normally closed, and the common. Now the common is where you will have your power coming in, and it will go out to wherever. Closed, most instances nowhere, because you only want it actuated when there's power to the coil, in which case that flicks over to there. Your normally open is then closed, and you've got power going out. Yippee! It really is as simple as that. You turn the power off, that goes, and then that switches back to normally closed. That's all it is. It's a magnet. It's a magnet turning like a light switch on and off. That's all. Literally, that's all it is. This is the schematic diagram of. Where did I just put the fuck out? There it is. Right. This is. Let's take that out. The socket you can use for any flavour of relay. Now this. The orientation, I usually say put this at the top. It doesn't matter if that's at the bottom. Sometimes if you're putting that on a DIN rail, that'll be at the bottom. It's irrelevant. They all have the same basic structure. Okay, at the bottom you've got two connectors. Next level up, two connectors. Those. On the other side of the relay, you've got those two, and then at the very top, you've got those two. And you can count them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The way I was taught to remember this are these are normally closed, normally open, normally com, and coil. So it's cock. C for closed, O for open, C for common, and C for coil, cock. Now, what confuses people is mainly the positioning of these. And I can understand that. However, don't be freaked by the stupid way that these seem to be laid out. These are the holes for your screws to keep it in place. And essentially, this side is unique from this side. So think of it as, in fact, what we could do, we've got a bit of paper. Yeah, let's get rid of that. Now, let's imagine this, so make it a bit simpler. So you've got power to the coil, simply changes between these two. That's all it does. So your normally open switches, power to here and here, nothing. The power flows between common and normally closed. That's where your power is flowing at the moment. If there's nothing attached to that, the power doesn't go anywhere. The common to normally open will become a circuit when you turn the magnet on by putting power through it. So that then closes that. That then allows power to flow. Same on that side. Common, power to there is usually coming out here in its state. Add power to it, and the normally open then has the power sent to that instead. So it's that little switch there and there. That's all it is. What I did was, first of all, this is the top of the underback. So power goes out to the underback. The two switches, the underback basically is just two float switches, yeah, which go up and down depending on whether there's watt in there, water or watt. So the top comes into here to actuate the coil. Here just goes to neutral, right, just like that. But I've also linked this to, let's do it in red, shall we, boys and girls? I've got a red pen here. So I've linked this to this and this. Right. Why have I done that? Well, A, because this is 12 volt. We want 12 volt going to common here, and we want 12 volt going to common here. That's what keeps the coil going. Right. We want, when the coil's activated, this to go through to here and then out, remember, to the relay. Now when there's, so essentially when the top switch is switched on, it pulls the coil in and allows voltage to go. Now here's the clever thing, if you turn that off, the coil would stop. So we need to get some more 12 volt to here, and this is where the normally open from here, just do my pen again, so that's the top switch and this is the bottom switch. So 12 volt then comes in here when it's closed, comes in here through the normally open, to the common, providing 12 volt, and so this coil is still actuated. Okay, here's the clever thing, cut that off, it doesn't remove power to the coil, there's still power to the coil coming in here. Cut that off, everything stops, the magnet then ceases to be, and then even if you was to add more on the bottom, it's still not, because that's now a normally open circuit, right? Remember this now is connected to this, so that doesn't go anywhere. It waits until the top one is activated again, then the magnet is actuated, boom, power goes through to the output, this goes through to here, triggers the relay, pump starts. Bottom ones are already now open. As soon as that happens, the power goes through. So as soon as the top one cuts off, that magnet stays on until the bottom one cuts off. Boom, boom, boom. Easy, as falling off a dustbin, as the Dalek said. I don't know where I got that one from. Does it work? It occurred to me that it might be worth looking at if you wanted to have this as a standalone unit. This, in mine, simply, I had all the 12 volt in there, so all this had to do was bypass the switch. But if you wanted this self-contained mains unit, it's quite simple. You could actually just cut an extension lead down with a plug and socket, join the neutral and earth, but the lives, you split the live coming out. One goes to your 12 volt transformer. Just interrupt myself for a moment, if I may. I've just noticed, I should have really clarified that the transformer will also have a neutral and an earth, and you would then simply, oh, focus you, and the earth would connect. So essentially you would use chocolate blocks like these, except you'd use 3 obviously to connect those together. Right, back to what I was wibbling on about. You split the live coming out, one goes to your 12 volt transformer, and the other side comes down to the COM of the relay socket here. Now remember, this is completely separate, so this can switch your mains voltage. So when the coil, when the relay is activated, this joins normally open and common, creating that circuit. So that's basic, simple enough. The rest of it is almost the same as before. Remember, the only negative we need to worry about is that side of the coil going back to the 12 volt transformer. That's the only negative that we need here on the 12 volt side. The positive, 12 volt positive, splits and goes to each of the switches, the top switch and the bottom switch. When the bottom switch is activated, there is power between the normally open and the common and the coil. Let's run with it. Let's run with it. So that, yeah, that'll do. Sorry, it's been a long old morning. And similarly, when the top is activated, we'll also activate the coil. Now, here's the clever part. When the top ceases to be activated, the coil is still running because the bottom switch is engaged. So it's still sending power to that coil. It comes into the normally open, up to the common, so this is switched inside the relay, and then that powers the coil. When the bottom switch turns off, breaks that circuit, and the coil is then, boom, no longer switching the mains. I hope that makes sense. Now, Harry BREW 69 has a diagram which he's going to be putting up. I'll put a link to it below, which is much easier, I think, and clearer than this. But this is just very simple how you would wire it with a little 12 volt transformer. You could even use a little LED driver, 12 volt LED transformer, because it's not giving masses of power, and some of those will handle a stupid amount of 5 watts and whatever. So that essentially is it. Obviously all this would need to go in a plastic housing, waterproof housing, but your plug and socket bit could just go into the side of a box with grommets. So you could have, it's not really focusing, thank you. You'd have your mains in and out here, which fires the pump, and then all you'd need here is a lead, one lead going to your 2 floats. You link the lives to one side, and on the second side, so you only need 3 core. It's as simple as that. So you've got one sending your 12 volt, and then your 2 returns which go to here and here. Hope that makes sense. That's essentially what I've done, but mine is switching, mine's bypassing that switch. That's all mine's doing. But if you wanted to have it 240 volt directly to your pump, that's how you do it. Right, if you find this nonsense, this complete twaddle interesting, please consider subscribing to the channel. It'd be lovely to have you. And click the bell to be notified of more rubbish, and click the like because it makes me feel loved. Right, cheers boys and girls.